Well, hello there, woman beings, and
Hello.
potentially those who menstruate.
All people who menstruate.
All those who menstruate. I am your host today, Kellyanne, and I am here with Kelly and Emma.
Hello.
And you know what? We're going to be talking about your period and our periods. We all happen to be on our periods, and I'm hosting this episode because I love talking about vaginas. So without further ado, we're just going to dive right in.
Vagina, vagina, vagina.
Vagina, vagina. This is Woman Being,
where we explore thoughts and opinions
and have the freedom to change our minds
without expectation or judgment.
We will hold a safe space and support each other
as we navigate together in the form of feminine.
Uterus, uterine wall shedding,
Uterine wall shedding.
Period. Blood.
vulva,
Vulva. What a beaut.
Fallopian tubes.
cervix,
Cycle.
menstruation.
So it's actually kind of funny that we're doing this episode and we all happen to be on our periods this morning. We are very
Yes.
synced up people today.
Yeah. We literally all started on the same day, and it was 2 days ago. So we're all on day 3
It's day 3.
of the period.
And so why not talk about period?
Why not?
Yeah.
I mean, how long are your guys' periods typically? I'm curious.
Oh, mine's pretty exact.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's usually starts on a Wednesday or Thursday and ends on a Sunday.
Wow.
Wow.
Wait,
That's
Thursday
so
to Sunday? So 4 days.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, mine's about 4 days, really.
Yeah, mine is also 4 days.
Occasionally there's like a little bit of spotting right after
Yeah.
on the 5th day or so. But yeah, by then I don't have to use a cup or anything like that.
Yeah, just like a little panty liner situation.
Well, period underwear
Or
situation.
period under
I gotta
situation.
get me some period underwear.
Oh, I
Yeah,
love it.
game changer, man. Okay, ladies. So we all have periods.
We do.
It's a thing. Tell me about the eve or morn or afternoon, any time of the day that you had your first period. How was that for you? What happened?
It was glorious. I'll tell you what, Kellyanne.
A momentous occasion.
Truly, I was so happy to get my period.
Were you?
Because I was the last of my friends to get my period. At the ripe old age of 13, none of my friends had gotten their period, or all my friends had gotten their periods, and I had not yet. And I felt so behind. And I was in, I guess 13 is what, 7th grade? And I remember it was a Friday the 13th.
Oh, I didn't know this.
So jealous.
That is amazing.
Wow.
It was a Friday the 13th, and it was also like take your kid to work day. And so a lot of the kids at my school were not at school, except for some reason I didn't go to work with my mom. So it was like only myself and one of my other friends were actually at school that day. And I remember it was lunchtime. We were having lunch, and I was like, something's happening. And so I go to the bathroom, and I'm like, there's a bloodbath. It
was
happened.
a bloodbath, really?
It was like, my underwear was like full of blood, and I like just shoved a ton of toilet paper down there.
Haven't we all?
And I just like put my pants back on, and I was like, I guess I just have to go through the rest of this day.
No.
So then I went through the rest of the day, and then when I got home, I told my mom. And she like helped me out and like got me some pads and stuff. But yeah, I remember I excitedly came back to the lunch table and told my one friend, I was like, guess what? I think her name was Caroline. Guess what, Caroline? I started my period. And she was like, great.
Okay, but you said you were the last?
Yes.
In 7th grade?
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Like,
And most of my friends got it in 5th or 6th grade.
I got mine in 6th, but I feel like 7th isn't like that late.
Yeah.
It
right?
made me feel very, like I was so behind.
I mean, I know people that got their period for the first time at like 15 or 16.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like there's such a wide range, but
Yeah.
I get it. I get it. I was also very excited to start my period, but not because I felt behind, but I was just like, yes, I want to be a woman. I am ready to fully blossom forth.
This is what I was meant for.
I was literally like 11. Like I had barely turned 11, and I remember like bursting forth in my parents' bedroom and like making the announcement of like, I have started my period. And I was like,
I have arrived.
I was like so regal about it. And then I was like, oh shit, like I'm going to have this for the rest of my life. There's no tapping out until I'm like a million years old. Like what was I so excited for? And then I remember, so I was the first of my friends. I don't know if I said that or not. And I was very young, but like I didn't realize how much it could hurt. And my cramps were awful. Aww. And like I remember going to dance class the next day, and I was like, one of my friends, whom I still love dearly, like she did not believe me when I was like, girl, I started my period. And she was like, no way. And I was like, yeah, way.
No way.
And she didn't believe me. And we were changing in the bathroom together for a dance class. And I was like, fine, bitch, you don't believe me? And I like showed her my underwear. She was like, oh my God. She like freaked out and panicked. And I was like, bitch, it's okay. Like, I'm fine. Like, this is normal.
I'm just bleeding out for several days. It's fine.
And I mean, it was bad. Like, looking back now, I'm like, my flow was like heavy. But I made it through dance class. And then shortly, all the other girls knew that I was on my period, and like they were like escorting me to dance class, like with emotional support and just like, what do you need? Can I get you anything? And I was just like, oh my God, like I'm fine, like calm down. But anyway.
Wow.
It was very
a supportive
dramatic
team of dancers.
It was very dramatic.
Wow. Okay. The drama. Mine was not, it was very anticlimactic. I'm just going to be honest. I had older friends, so they obviously all got their periods before I did. Well, not obviously, but they did because they were older. And so I was like somewhat prepared. And I don't honestly, I think I was at school, maybe. I don't really remember specifically where I was, but it was just like a little bit of brown spotting. And I had like other people warn me that it might just be that. And so then I think I shoved some toilet paper in my underwear, and then when I got home or whatever, told my mom. And then the thing was, though, she bought, like, the teeniest, tiniest pads for me for, like, the first, like, 3 months that I had my period. Like, little
like
kid
a liner?
panty
Did you layer them?
No. You can layer them?
I would like, if I had small ones and that was like all I had, I'd like put one in the front, one in the middle, one in the back, and just like have like a train of panty liners.
Fully covering like from the top of the butt crack all
like,
the way around to the vulva.
My mom bought like old lady pads that like are like this long.
We eventually got to that. Because I used pads for the longest time. I didn't like get into the tampon game until later. But yeah, like the tiniest pads. And then I think for the first period that was fine. But like then it like kicked in, you know, and I was using these pads and they were like not enough. But they smelled nice. That's what I remember about them. They were they had like a little scent to them, which is probably horrible and not like good for your vulva.
It's so bad for you.
It's bad for you.
But yeah, that was my story.
Wow. You had like an on-ramp.
Yeah.
I had zero on-ramp.
I was like, I think I was 11. I think it was in the fall of my 6th grade year. So I was about to turn 12. So it was like right in there.
Yeah.
And I got it and I told my mom. She's like, okay. She got me some pads and that was it. Like, it's very, very anticlimactic.
So yours was pretty chill.
It was very chill.
So, okay, so we had our first periods, some dramatic, some not so dramatic, mine
Very
extremely
not
dramatic.
That's my whole childhood, you guys. It was just not dramatic
It was just not dramatic. So considering like when we got our periods, what did your period education look like? Either before you got your period or like after you got your period? Like what was taught to you? Yeah, what did that look like?
Yeah, like everything I learned was through my older friends. So I had like people in a grade above and then a friend like a couple grades above, or a few grades above. And so I just did whatever they did. I mean, it wasn't really an education. It was more just like, what do you guys do? And they like
helped you
these
out.
are the pads we like, and this is how you use a tampon and blah, blah, blah. Like, and I do remember very distinctly we had like a talk in 5th grade, and they showed us videos about like pube hair and puberty and all these things, and like prepared us for our coming menstruation experience. So like we all like kind of knew what happens and whatever, but
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I actually don't have any recollection of like receiving education around my period at school.
really,
I presume I probably did because I did have health classes, but I genuinely think that I blocked out a lot of health classes because like always felt extremely uncomfortable during those. And so I don't remember actually gaining any information about my period from school.
for us, it was like a big deal. Like it was a big day, and you heard other grades talk about it because they went through it.
they're
And
like,
it was like, I forget what it was called.
good.
It had like
Wow.
a thing, but it was called like Sex Day or something like that, which we didn't talk about sex. Like,
That's
but they like showed us a
fascinating.
video that showed us like that our armpit hair would grow and our pube hair would grow, and they separated the girls and boys so that like, you know, we
Yeah.
were safe or whatever. And then I remember my 5th grade teacher like let us ask any question that we wanted and put it in like a little bin. And like one of the questions was like about tampons. And I remember they poured water on a tampon to show us like
Wow.
how much like blood it can absorb or whatever. And
Yeah.
like it like fanned out into like a square, and we were all like, wow.
Oh, so it was the cheap tampons.
Yeah, it was kind of a show. That one was, but they just did it to demonstrate how a tampon works, and you know, we were like, ooh, you know, and our teachers were like, oh, I've never had so much excitement over a tampon.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember only receiving education about sex and drugs at school, but not about periods. Again, I'm sure that I probably did. But yeah, for me, most of it was around friends or like my mom. I don't remember much about my mom even really telling me about it, except that I do remember her reassuring me that I would get my period eventually because I was very worried that I wasn't going to get it. And then I know that like when I did get my period, she like very kindly tried to show me how to use a tampon and like sort of like I have a memory, which I don't know if this is 100% accurate or if this is like my imagination, but I remember her like sitting on the toilet like but fully clothed and like holding a tampon that was not opened and like demonstrating with her body to me like how I would do it without actually like literally putting a tampon into herself. And I was like, what? And I tried and I was not good at it and did not wear tampons for a long time because I was like, this is impossible. But I remember her doing that. So she like really tried to like show me how to do it. She like made sure to tell me like, make sure you get the pads with the wings because the ones without the wings are horrendous. It's funny you talked about pubic hair and stuff because I feel like I knew like nothing about that. I started shaving at a very young age because like I didn't like hair. But I remember like one of my friends at one point said something about having hair in your butt crack. And I was like, what? You can have hair in your butt crack? And they're like, do you shave all the way up to your butt crack? And I was like, I didn't even know that was an option or a thing that I possibly would need to do.
Oh, wow.
And so, I mean, all that to say, I don't have a very hairy butt crack, but
Congratulations.
it was like, I
God
just
has
like,
smiled upon you.
it was just like through like friends slowly disseminating information is the point of that.
Oh my
On how I
gosh.
learned about things and even like how to use a tampon more fully. I got more information from my friends because I think I felt more comfortable talking to them about it than my mom, or then in the future, other menstruation options and things like that. But yeah, that was pretty much my education around it from the
Nice.
start.
I mean, yeah, it was pretty detailed. Like they showed us a diagram of like where the hair would appear. We definitely didn't talk about butt crack hair though. It was just
Butt
only
crack hair is a not so secret that's only passed down from
It
woman
is
to
the-
woman.
yes. That is something reserved for the sacred pass
Yes.
along.
So if you've
yes.
if you've never done a little swipe and seen if you have any butt crack hair, this is your sign.
We're just letting you know,
there might be
woman
hair
to
there.
woman, there might be hair down there.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? It's all good.
If you've ever been to a waxer,
Then
you
you
would
know.
already know that.
Yeah,
though.
you know.
Yeah.
Man. Wow. Well, you guys had very different experiences from me. I was homeschooled. So I technically had no, like, quote unquote, like, normal,
Health class.
standardized,
Yeah.
whatever. But I do remember having more of an understanding about my period and what that meant than my understanding around sex. So I don't know if that's like from my mom or from friends or what, but for some reason I felt like I had a clear understanding of what my body would go through as a woman. But things like armpit hair and pubic hair, like it was more like a, Kelly, you need to start shaving your armpits, like kind of day. And I was like, oh, I didn't even know I had armpit hair for some reason.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even that intense. It was like 3 little hairs and it was like, it's time. And I was like, okay, cool. Got
So
it.
that's so funny because I, like, one of the most shameful, like, horrific experiences of my childhood was, like, secretly shaving my armpits behind my mom's back and being afraid to, like, tell her about it. Like, looking back, I'm like, it's so dumb. Like, there's nothing. I just was afraid that she was going to be like, you're too young for this. You can't shave your armpits. I don't know.
Totally.
I just
that
was
makes
terrified
sense.
that there's going
Yeah.
to be some sort of like altercation between me and my mom if she found out that I was shaving.
Yeah.
And so I like secretly shaved my armpits for like, I don't even know, like a year.
No, I actually, my first shaving was also a secret. And I remember I was like on vacation and my friend came with my family and she had started shaving and she like, we like were in the bathroom of the beach house we were staying in and she was like, do you want to try shaving?
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, I do. And so I used her razor. I don't recommend doing that. That's not the most sanitary practice.
Nope.
But I used her razor and I was like, I think I might have shaved my armpits and my legs. And I was like, not afraid I would get in trouble, but I was like, oh, I have this secret. I'm like an adult now because I just shaved. And so it was like a tantalizing thing to me.
I remember like praying about it. You know, like I was like, God forgive me for like not telling my mom about shaving. And like I remember like for a while I like stopped because I felt so guilty. It was just so dumb. Like I'm like
You fasted
I'm
from
like 12
shaving.
years old, like I don't know. It was like at the
Wow.
time it was the most like monumental thing going on
That's
in my life.
amazing.
Wow.
Trying to shave my armpits.
That's so interesting. I don't know. Like, I kind of felt guilty about shaving my legs. Like, I just decided to, like, do it. And I was, like, sneaking my dad's face razor. Sorry, Dad. And yeah, so, like, I just started shaving my legs. But it was, like, it's almost weird. It's like, oh, I'm becoming a woman. It's almost like, oh, you can't wear red lipstick. Like, because
Right.
that's, like, inappropriate for some reason.
Yeah.
Like, color on your lips. Like, you can wear
Yeah.
pink, but you can't wear red as a young girl.
it's too adults.
Yeah, too adult. Like, it was like that idea of like too adult. But yeah, so
But I remember like approaching my mom, like shaking, like, Mom, I need razors. And she was like, what for? And I was like, to shave my armpits. And she was like, okay.
She's like, cool.
yeah,
She was
great.
like, all right, I'll get some. Like,
Yeah.
it was like, I was like, I'm so scared. And it was like it was dumb. So dumb.
Aw.
Anyways, but yeah, that's my
Yeah.
fun story. Not even related to periods. Back to periods.
Back to period. But yeah, I don't remember like having like a super intentional conversation or anything. But I did learn more as I got older through friends or other friends' moms I felt maybe more comfortable with, and we would like talk about stuff. And like I do remember like a few of my mom's friends were just like super nonchalant about it, and I think that's was the most important thing to me. Like the more comfortable an adult felt talking to me about it, the more comfortable I felt like engaging in that conversation.
Yeah.
And I think that is the most important thing when it comes to your education around periods. Like, I know it's probably really weird for moms to sit down with their daughters and like have conversations. Like, my young girl is becoming a woman. Like, you know, she is blossoming into the fullness of her womanhood. And that's probably weird, but I'm also like, you know, the more normal and like chill you can be about it, I think
Yeah.
the more comfortable your girl's going to be. But I wouldn't say I had a particularly formal period education, but somehow I just knew, and it was like chill.
I think that was super valuable that like the state of Minnesota or whatever mandated this like type of education at that age. Because I think later on, like legislation tried to push it up later a year or like whatever. And I'm like, I think it was super valuable that in 5th grade, everybody had to sit down together and watch a video on like what happens to your body when you grow up. And like it happens to everybody at different stages. But I just think of like all the girls out there who like, maybe they don't have a mom, or maybe their mom is absent, or maybe they don't have like a support system like that. And that at least was like a very formalized, clear, your body is changing, these are the things you need to know thing. Totally. And like for me, I had friends and whatever that I could have found, but not everybody has access to that.
Well, and I think it's so, like, actually, I think the younger the better, because then you can know, like, I can expect this. Yeah. Because, like, gosh, I met a kid when he was, like, 12, and he was, like, already, like, super freaking tall. I'm, like, trying to think of a number, and I just can't. But, like, he, like, was already growing a full beard. Like, you actually, like, I think, like, if you wait, you're actually going to miss the opportunity. So I'm not for pushing any type of that education. Like, you need to know about your body.
As in pushing it to a later year.
To a later year. Definitely. Yeah, no. Like, I'm like, the earlier the better. And honestly, if it can come from parents or other adults in kids' lives, I think that's better too. Because then it's like, you know, you have that relational equity versus like, you know, a teacher or whatever. Like, but also very valuable to have mandated education. 100% behind that. So, ladies, what have you learned as an adult that has helped you with your period / manage your period? And what are your current period practices? I must know.
She must know.
I must.
Absolutely must. As an adult, the best thing that I have adopted or learned is about the menstrual cup.
Amen.
God bless the menstrual cup.
God bless the menstrual cup.
We can't have this conversation without a conversation about the menstrual cup, because I have used tampons for most of my pubescent life and beyond. I don't know. Post-pubescent life. And they're great, but menstrual cup is better by far. Yeah. I'm wearing one right now, and that's all.
Yeah. I feel like one thing that I've learned a lot around just like managing your period in general. I feel like for me, I had a lot of anxiety around like whether I was going to like bleed through my underwear or through my pants, and like about bleeding in the night into my bed and like all these different things. And I feel like I've just, as I've gotten older, have learned so much about period management that has been so helpful. And I think that a lot of that is just, that comes with age and as you've like more practice in period managing. But yes, the menstrual cup. And actually, I will say what has been better for me than a menstrual cup is a menstrual disc, which I love. I love using the disc because it sits higher up inside of you and it like hooks onto this little pelvic shelf, and it's just wonderful. And it's like self-dumping when you go to the bathroom, and it just plops all the blood out, and you only have to change it once a day. It's so good. Like the fact that my period is so like far out of my mind now because I'm not constantly wondering, am I leaking? Am I like, do I need to change my tampon? How long has this tampon been in? Am I going to get toxic shock syndrome? Oh no, I'm going to die. Yeah. Like that was like always a thing. I even like remember hearing horror stories about friends of mine who like accidentally put 2 tampons in or things like that.
Or the string broke.
I'm sorry. What?
Yeah, no, this
How
has
do you
happened.
put
This
in
is real.
2 tampons?
I don't know how she did it.
You have a very high cervix.
But
I don't know.
Yeah, she forgot she had a tampon in and put another one in. And then somehow, I guess when she took the other one out or something, both came out.
That's a big fear of mine, actually.
That is a real thing that happens.
Yeah.
And so, like, things like that, you don't have to worry about them with a menstrual disc or
no
cup.
pee string.
No. Yeah. Which was so gross.
So gross.
Like, And I would always, I don't know, you guys might have other ways that you did this, but like I would just keep my tampon in when I went to pee. You know, like if I didn't need to take the tampon out yet, I would leave the tampon in. But yes, the string gets covered in pee. I had friends who would take a tampon out every time they peed.
I would too. I would intentionally dehydrate myself during my period so that I didn't have to change it as often, so that I wasn't like, because if your flow's not very heavy, which I don't have an overall very heavy flow, like it sucks like taking out a tampon too early because it's like
hurts.
dry and it like it's like.
It's like
uncomfortable.
sandpaper,
it's like sandpaper
inside of your vaginal canal.
Yeah, it's not pleasant. So I would always like wait as long as possible to pee so I didn't feel like I had to change it out.
Yeah. But that's real. That's why I didn't change it out every time I peed, because I was like, I'm not pulling that out while it's sandpaper.
Right.
It's going to be saturated before I pull it out.
Well, one thing too is beach days are like a non-issue. I used like going to the pool on my period used to be the biggest like deal.
So even if you can use a tampon, you're worried the string's gonna like poke out of your swimsuit, and it's a whole thing.
And usually like I feel like my tampon usually would still end up getting like waterlogged. And then it would like bleed out, and then like my swimsuit always had some level of blood in it. Or I would like take my tampon out before I went in, but then like as soon as I got out of the water, I had to like run to the bathroom. Like it was just not.
You were ballsy.
Weren't you worried about bleeding in the pool?
Well, no, you're like your vagina actually like seals itself when you're in water.
Excuse me?
Yeah, like.
I was all like, my thing was always you had to have a tampon in to go into the pool. Like that was the whole purpose of tampons, was to be able to go swimming on your period.
I feel like when I used to take my tampon out, it would have pool water in it.
Yeah, because the string, like it's all connected, and so it's gonna all absorb the water. But I'm saying if you take it out, like I think in water your vagina seals up a little bit, and so you don't have as much of a flow. I don't know. This is what I heard or read, or I don't know how I came upon it.
That's fascinating.
But for the most, I mean, like when it was going to be a long day at the beach, I remember one time I went surfing, and so I wore a tampon instead of taking it out. And like, there's not bathrooms around. And once we got surfing, I had all the sand in my like swimsuit that was like soaked with blood.
Oh no!
And like, so I had this like bloody sand that I'm like throwing into this like. I don't know.
That's
porta
the
potty.
worst.
Yeah, it's just beach days are like literally a non-issue now. Like periods are way more. I mean, like there's still the other stuff that comes with it, but at least from the standpoint of like bleeding out and like not being able to go swimming and all that stuff.
It's absolutely agree. Menstrual cup is or disc. I have a disc that I've not fully figured out how to get into my vagina.
I also have a disc, and I don't think it works for me.
But like something like a disc or a menstrual cup, in my opinion, is clearly the superior menstrual experience.
Yes.
Like, fuck tampons.
Yeah, and another thing that I'll say about, well, first of all, in between menstrual cups or discs versus tampons, there's like a totally different experience in terms of the way that your like vaginal canal feels, because it's not pushing against it in the same way. And like you don't feel it the way that you feel a tampon. And even though tampons are superior, in my opinion, to a pad, like this is just a whole different level. Yeah. And then even like it can like help reduce cramping, to have a menstrual disc and like different things like that, because it's not pressing against you. But another thing that is now part of my like period routine is period underwear, which I love, because if you don't know this, everyone has a different shaped vagina. Yes, and so
different.
Just like we all have different boobs.
Yes, we're all snowflakes, and so the thing is that even when I use tampons, every menstrual cup that I've used, every tampon that I've used, has leaked no matter what. I get a little bit of leakage, and I'm pretty sure it's because of just the shape of my vaginal canal, and that's something that happens with people. And so when I used to always have a liner on just in case, because I'm like, something's going to drip out, even if it's not like full, like even if my tampon isn't full or my menstrual cup isn't full. But having period underwear completely eliminates the need for that as well, which is incredible. And you don't feel like you're walking around with a diaper on, which is amazing.
Yeah, it's like you're already, at least for me, on my period, I'm already very like hot and sweaty down there. I'm just generally more sweaty on my period. And then to add like a synthetic fiber diaper situation down there, it's like it just adds to the like sweaty swamp ass situation.
Oh yeah, so much swamp ass. Ugh, I can think back to my teen years and be like, it was just so sweaty down there. It was just so gross.
And you didn't know if it was like sweat or blood.
It was all the above.
The mistaking of like not being sure. Am I sweaty? Am I bleeding? Did a bunch of just vaginal fluid just come out? Or did I literally just pee myself? I don't know which one it is.
Sometimes it's a little bit of everything.
Sometimes it's everything at once. You just don't know.
You don't know. Damn. I mean, wow. Back to the tampon conversation. I would actually cut my string to make it shorter.
Oh.
And then I would roll it and stick it in my vagina.
I would have been absolutely terrified that it was going to get lost and like sucked up into my body.
I mean,
if I did that.
There was a level of fear of that. Like I was like, but what if it like gets lost? But like it never got lost.
Well, yes, because where would it go?
time,
Do you think it's going to just travel up your
I thought it might end up in my stomach.
Yeah.
But
which doesn't even make sense.
But because
they're connected.
That's true. They are not. Now I know. But like as a ballerina, as a dancer, I actually like tampons had to be my life because I was in a leotard and tights all the time and nothing else. Like if you are wearing underwear under your leotard, you're dancing wrong. Like it's like a no-go. And so I found the Playtex Sport Super Plus tampons were like my bread and butter. Like mwah. Never had a leak with them, never had a problem. And so, but I would cut my string and like roll it up and just.
I mean, now that I have a menstrual cup,
just hide in the folds.
I would be much more comfortable doing something like that because I'm already like up in there, like getting stuff. But at the time, the whole tampon thing, like the goal was like, I don't know.
Just plug it up.
Plug it up, and then you use the string, and you don't come in contact with any vaginal fluids. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If possible.
It was
kind of thing.
You do not even touch your vulva if possible.
The pee string didn't bother me. I would just like, if it did come out and like I would just like roll up toilet paper and just like press it and just absorb the pee and then move on with my day. Yeah. I literally never had the thought.
But it's like still like cold and like wet and it's pee and it's down there. I don't know.
I've literally never had the thought. But you know, maybe I'm just out of it.
No, some people have different preferences. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, gosh, for me, like, I have, like, learned so much about my woman's body and about my period now as an adult. Like, I did a, like, course called FEMM, F-E-M-M, which is Fertility Education Medical Management. And it is for basically natural family planning. But also it's super helpful. Like if I have girls, I will make them take this class because it is so empowering to know the way your body actually works, the hormone cycle that you go through, the way you can track your fertility literally from the mucus that comes out of your vagina. It's like game changing. So that has been very empowering for me. And like I have never known more about my female body. So would highly recommend. And actually the nurse practitioner that I worked with, her name was Carly, and she is stunning. And she now actually does like I forget what it's called. It's like she runs a health clinic now that's like you pay a monthly like subscription fee and then you like bypass all normal medical fees. It's really cool. Anyway, so she's awesome. Really love her. And FEMM is an incredible program. Highly would recommend. 10 out of 10. But other than that, I have learned a lot from Dr. Jolene Brighton. I read her book called Beyond the Pill, which is not about anti-birth control. It is more how to transition safely off of birth control, how to handle birth control safely for you, and
The birth control
support
pill.
the birth control pill. She talks about all forms of birth control in the book, but it's really just about pro-education and knowing what's right for you. And then if you choose to transition off of birth control, how to do it safely so that you avoid PCOS, which, if you don't know, is an abbreviation for post-birth control syndrome, which plagues a lot of women. So that has been super helpful. Those two resources as I chose to transition off of birth control, which has been amazing. But now I have whole rituals around my period. I have spiritualized my period. I am not the person that thinks you need to have the best relationship with your period ever. My period tends to still sometimes suck quite a bit. I've struggled to figure out how to keep my hormones balanced and in check. And as a result, I've had very terrible cramp history. I've had terrible, heavy flows. I've been the person that will bleed through a Super Plus tampon and a maxi pad in 45 minutes. I have had that life. So I'm empathetic to all kinds of period struggles. But now I choose to make it what it can be for me. And so I have, again, whole rituals. I'll write down what I'm energetically releasing that month and partner with my period and sit with the divine feminine and bask in the moonlight and all the things. So it's become a fun thing for me that I get to use as a tool. And then also, rest. Because I think your period kind of demands you to relax sometimes. And so I choose to make that a time of, hey, what do you need? Because you are physically bleeding from an orifice in your body. You should maybe calm down. So anyway, those
that
are my
happened to me
things.
just yesterday as I was at work and just day 2 on the period. And I was like, I need a nap. And so I left early and took a nap.
Good.
And it was good. But I think those kind of things, paying attention to your body and sometimes at different points of your cycle, there are different needs. And so, yeah.
Yeah, something else that I've added, as I have had a lot of vagina woes this year, is that I have started implementing a special vagina wash that I use to help balance my pH. I really actually love Honey Pot. They're my favorite. I also use different kinds of panty liners now that have herbs and essential oils infused to them, which is I use towards the end of my period, and it's feels really fresh and tingly, which I like. And then at the suggestion of my doctor, I have actually started using boric acid a few times a week, which I would highly suggest talking to your doctor about because it's not anything super proven, but for me, it has helped me quite a bit. Again, I really like Honey Pot. However, my in nursing school sister was like, yeah, that has tea tree oil in it, and you probably shouldn't be putting tea tree oil in your vagina. And I was like,
That sounds painful,
good
honestly.
to know. I mean, for me, it's very soothing. I love them, but so now I might be looking at different suppositories.
So is that
Yeah,
Honey Pot
suppositories-
thing you're saying, that's
it's
a
a
brand?
brand.
It's a
Okay.
yeah, it's a brand, which I've really liked though. Most of I use a vulva cream now that has lavender in it, and it's coconut oil, and it's nice. So I now treat my vagina almost equally as good as I treat my face, because she needs it right now. So yeah, that is something else I've started doing just this year. Actually, it's very new. So
And that's because of imbalances that you've had and things
Yeah.
like that. That's not necessarily something everyone
right
would do.
Yeah, for sure.
Because-
Talk to your doctor. Do what is needed for you.
But be aware that there's resources available.
Yes, there are
to you.
great things out there to use if you need them and want them. Some women, like I have been in most of my life, have completely happy vaginas other than periods. But now my vagina's I need help. And I'm okay, I hear you. So, yeah, she's getting some TLC. So now that we've talked about what we've learned as adults and new practices, what did you wish you had known? What do you wish you knew? There we go. When you were younger, like what education would have supported you?
I mean, is it too crazy to just say everything I know now? I wish I knew that there were resources out there other than like a pad and a tampon and some ice cream. Like, I think obviously health is always going to be a journey and there's always going to be like a process of discovery and whatnot. But I definitely feel like because periods are so taboo, it prevents women from talking even amongst themselves about it, as well as just like society as a whole, marketing companies, products from being able to get out there so that people are aware of like what's out there. I don't know. Yeah. That's my take.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, and I think that just general information around menstruation has been much more widely available in the past few years. Totally. Like, it's definitely something that has grown since when we were first getting our periods. Mm-hmm. So part of it is like, I wish that this education had existed when I was
totally, yeah, and like female-owned like initiatives and businesses are now a lot more elevated and like less taboo. Yeah. Especially when it comes, not that a female-owned business is taboo, but like period businesses would be kind of taboo. You know, like we didn't talk about periods publicly, and so it felt like a lot of sexual health, reproductive health things were not allowed to be widely shared.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, or even like the shame around being found in the period aisle of Walmart or Target. Like, I am going to hide the fact that I need to buy tampons is like so silly. Like, I just wish that I hadn't had shame around the fact that I am a woman. Therefore, I have a vagina and therefore I will have periods as well. Like,
and I can buy this in a aisle at Target and not like hide it.
It's like a guy buying condoms. Like, who cares? Like, good job for practicing safe sex, you know? But
that's fascinating to me because I don't remember ever feeling weird about purchasing like period products. It was more a fear around people knowing that I was currently on my period.
Really?
And so like it was always the trick of when I had to go to the bathroom at school and I was on my period, you like hide your pad or your tampon somewhere on your person and then you go to the bathroom so that like people don't know. Although I did feel like shame, I guess, around like the thought of using like a super tampon or things like that. It was like, that means you're like weird because you have a heavy flow, so you have to use a bigger tampon. And there was always a weird association around it, and like where people, and like if people ever heard you use a super tampon, it was always such shock, as if like, what? Like, how do you even get that up there? And I'm like, I don't know, I'm sorry. I didn't really have it, but I needed it.
I don't know. Something about like bigger is always worse when it comes to women, unless you're talking about boobs.
That's so interesting. Because I felt pride in using Super Plus tampons.
Mm-hmm. I felt like demasculated, but in the female way. It was like defeminated. I don't know. Like, oh, I only need a regular. I don't know.
As if you don't produce enough blood.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, but I wish that I had been told, like, it's perfectly okay for you to use a heavier flow of tampon because I think, like, that was part of why I was always so concerned about, like, leaking was because for a while I didn't realize that I could use a larger tampon. Like, in my mind, it was like, that is for if you are, like, old and like you've given birth, so like everything's just loose down there, so you need the big one. Like that was sort of my thought around it. It was like, I'm just a 15-year-old girl, I can't use that.
Wow.
You know? So
that's so funny how we all like have little insecurities that just are dumb. But I mean, to be fair, calling a tampon size regular does imply that all of the other sizes are irregular and therefore like something is off.
Like, why not use like letters? Like
Well,
A, B, C,
yeah.
D,
I
plus
mean,
plus.
some of them do just have letters like L, R, and S.
Or heavy flow, light flow, average flow. Maybe average is even a bad word, but like
Medium
flow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be the equivalent of heavy or light.
Yeah.
Just medium.
Yeah.
But
Well,
Yeah.
it's okay if you use a super tampon, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
So.
Super Plus tampons were my BFF. I was like,
eventually they were mine as
They were
well.
yours.
But it just took me a while because
Yeah.
I didn't realize I could.
totally. I mean, gosh, yeah, regular tampons. Anyways, yeah, I also am in the same boat. I wish I knew everything then that I knew now. I wish I knew that, my reproductive system was also played a role in my immune system. And it's like a woman's like another vital sign of health.
Yeah, it's like a temperature check.
It's like, yeah, absolutely. It's like blood work every month. Like kind of an overall idea of how your health is based on, what your period's like. And it's super helpful actually. And looking back, I'm like, oh man, like the kind of periods I had as a young girl are symptomatic of, things like a hormone imbalance and other things that probably should have been taken care of at the time. But, we just didn't know. Like you don't know what you don't know. So I'm totally in that boat. I wish that I had known everything I know now.
Yeah, like when I was a kid, I remember my periods were like a week and a half long. And then I would have like 45-ish days between cycles.
Yeah.
And probably due to the fact that because I was like just small and thin, maybe I was underweight, that could have affected it. I was an athlete, that could have affected it. So there was a lot of different like things that might have played a role. But like looking back, I'm like, that probably was an indication of something wrong.
Totally.
And I just like assumed like, I just have a longer cycle. I don't know. Like it was
But
just...
also, like, I mean, people do just have long cycles sometimes. Sure. And, like, that's perfectly fine. Like, that doesn't mean that you're, like, necessarily, like, a health case.
Sure.
Like, you just might have, like, everyone has varying lengths of cycles, but it's what is healthy for your body.
Right.
Because everyone's period is going to be a bit different. There are definitely signs of unhealthy periods, though, as well.
Like, I feel like a week and a half's worth of bleeding.
That's
maybe
quite a bit.
maybe a sign of not something a little off.
Yeah, that's quite a bit. I mean, and so in the cycle, like a rule of thumb is that menstruation always follows ovulation. So 45 days, that tells me maybe your progesterone or whatever is having a hard time peaking to like trigger that ovulation. And so like, yes, everyone's period is very different. And just because yours is different doesn't mean that you have like some horrible health thing, but it is something to pay attention to. And I think a lot of things that have become like quote normalized, like or are typical, actually doesn't mean that like it should be normal, So like athletes, for example, losing their period, like that is something very like common. But I'm like, but why? Like, why are we actually like fine with the fact that young women could like lose their period? Like that's actually really weird to me. So anyways.
Because like reproductive health, essentially, like your body doesn't prioritize it as the most important thing, right? So if you're losing reproductive ability, essentially, it means that something is wrong enough that your body will shut that down so it can focus on something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your body's going into like your body's going into like a survival tactic.
Yes.
Yeah, which is great in some ways. Like your body's like, oh, if you are stressed or if you are under threat, I will protect you and make sure you don't get pregnant because we will not be able to sustain a life, which is great. But also like, oh, what's causing you to feel that way? What is causing your body to feel like that is a need, that there's a survival tactic that needs to be implemented? All very fascinating and all things I wish I knew when I was very young.
Yeah.
Would have been very helpful. So then what are some misconceptions you've come up against around your like own perception of your period or from other people about periods?
I feel like there's so many misconceptions. Like the period has been so misunderstood And it's, I mean, obviously there's like tons of stigma around it and like thinking that either you're like somehow gross because you're on your period, and like people like not wanting to hear you speak about it as if this is like this disgusting taboo thing that you're talking about. And like even worse than if you were like, if you had a cut on your arm and you were bleeding out, like people would rather you talk about that than the blood that comes out of your vagina every month. And I think that that's like definitely a harmful like stereotype around periods. But also the stereotype that like if you must be on your period if you're being emotional and things like that, which like everyone can have the collective eye roll. Because obviously throughout your hormone cycle, like your hormone levels change and that affects your moods and that affects just like the way that you're interacting with the world throughout your like roughly month of different hormones that you go through. But that also doesn't discredit those emotions that you feel. And there's that idea that like a man needs to find out when you're on your period so they can know when to tread lightly around you, because you're going to be a big period monster demon if you like whenever you start. Like it's ridiculous. I think also so this one's kind of funny. One misconception that, I mean, so I don't know all the scientific backing behind this, but one that my mom actually instilled in me, which I think was her way of trying to encourage me that I got my period so late, was that girls who got their period really early they were probably eating like hormone ingested chicken. What? And that caused them to have their period early. Like her whole thing was like, well, I mean, we do pump our poultry and just like meat in general, like chock full of hormones. Like they have tons and tons of hormones to make them grow faster and to like make them fatter so that there's more meat and all these things. And so she was like, I remember this girl who was in my 4th or 5th grade class got her period and she like told me about it. And I was like, what? Because she was like the first person I had known to get their period. The first person my age that I had known to get their period. And I remember telling my mom was like, oh, she's just eating hormone-injected meat. And mind you, I was raised a vegetarian. So, like, that was her. She was like, it's good that you're vegetarian because you would just get your period too early because you're eating all these hormones from meat. I don't know if there's been scientific studies about the correlation of like hormone injections to our livestock and like how that affects the development of young girls. There could be some sort of link. I don't know, but this was something my mom just told me. And I think it was partly to be like, you're going to get yours eventually, but at the right time, you know?
And so you've been able to look down on all the meat-eating plebeians.
Exactly.
And their early periods for your whole life. Yes,
Exactly.
absolutely.
That's funny. I mean, I don't know about studies. I mean, everything affects your hormones.
Yes.
Your stress levels, the kinds of food you eat, how much you do or don't exercise. Like, everything can play a part in your cycle and your hormones. But one thing in particular that I find very fascinating is there's a doctor doing research on phthalates, which is a chemical from plastics. And if you dive into this lady's research, you won't sleep for weeks. I will let you know that. But it is around basically how this chemical or this family of chemicals is actually affecting fertility rates in utero. Like you can find these chemicals present in like fetuses. It's a very big deal, and our society really needs to address it. But that's not what this podcast topic is about.
Off of microplastics.
Yeah.
That's what it is, right? Essentially microplastic.
It's a chemical that seeps out of plastic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Your food, your chicken that's wrapped in plastic, whatever. The two worst places are your bathroom in your home because of so many products in plastics, and also your kitchen. So things like microwaving your food in Tupperware, super bad thing. Probably stop.
This is kind of like one of those situations where everything causes cancer, right? Like, you cannot escape the phthalates.
Yeah, it's scary. But anyway, since you mentioned it, I was like, actually, this is really interesting.
Well, actually, I'm pretty sure the time at which you start your period is mostly determined by genetics.
100%.
So, if your mom got her period at a certain time, you will very likely get your period around the same time.
Or even from your dad's side. Because my mom had her period later. She was like a later bloomer, but my dad's side of the family has like much earlier like starters. And I fell in that bucket.
In that category. So, anyways, that's just a little nug.
Yeah.
Genetics.
Yeah. Genetics
they can be
play
a
a
bitch.
huge part. Yeah, 100%. Gosh, misconceptions. I remember a pastor, actually, that I grew up with that claimed from the pulpit that when a woman is on your period, that is when she is most fertile, which is actually the opposite of true. That is when your body's like, well, I didn't make a baby. I'm going to get rid of this. So
That's
it's
so
actually
funny.
when you are your least fertile, which was hilarious.
Least likely to get pregnant.
And I was like, well, this is why you couldn't conceive for years.
To this pastor?
No, I mean, that's what I thought. I didn't say it. But I'm just like, if you're trying to get your wife pregnant on her period, like that is like the opposite.
No, you are doing it wrong.
You are doing it wrong,
That
dear
is when
sir.
you should be having sex if you want your wife to not get pregnant.
Yes. You literally, well, and some women, I mean, that's not 100% true. Some women have very short cycles and start actually becoming fertile towards the end of their period. That is like something that happens. It's very rare though, and not like quote unquote typical.
It is possible.
It is possible, but
Well,
it's probably not you.
Well, and that's one thing, bringing up, talking about like the cycle. A misconception I grew up with is that your cycle is when your period starts and ends, and that the rest of the time you're normal. Normal, and then your period is
That was a quote unquote
Yes,
for the
yeah.
listeners.
Your period is just this short cycle and then you're done. And so one thing I have learned now as an adult is that it's actually a whole from the start of your period to the end of the start of your next period is a cycle. And there are changes in your body and
menstrual cycle.
your hormone levels. It all affects you. And it's not normal and then period. It is a whole
there's phases of your entire
phasing
cycle.
Can I
situation.
name them?
Please, Kelly.
So there
please name them.
there is your period that happens. That is the first phase of your cycle. The first day of your period is the first day of your new cycle. And then you go into your luteal phase, which is basically when your body is prepping and starting the process to be fertile. And then you have your ovulatory window, which is actually a very short window of only a handful, like less than a handful of days. It's like 3 or 4 max, with an ovulatory peak, which is roughly 12 hours, actually. So I grew up with the misconception that it was super easy to get pregnant. Not very true. Like it's actually, you have to have it kind of locked in and figured out. Some people do get pregnant all the time though, and that's perfectly normal as well. And then when you do not get pregnant, you go into your luteal phase. Wait, did I say luteal? Follicular phase. So that is when your follicle that did not get pregnant is prepping to be released and exit your body. And then you have your period. So that is the phase of your cycle. Phases of your cycle.
As some like to say, winter, spring, summer, and fall.
Absolutely.
Wait, what does that mean?
Well,
What?
winter is the period phase. Spring is the prep for the ovulation phase. Summer is your ovulatory phase. And then
Fall.
fall is when you get rid of the egg,
Yep.
leading
Gotcha.
into winter.
Yep. Switching gears a little bit. Let's talk about the challenges that women face around their period in our modern day, here and around the world, because there's many of them. Gosh,
How
the
do you
period's
even
been
start?
commercialized. The period has pink tax. Like, we have so many things. So, what are your initial thoughts?
Yeah. Well, first of all, pink tax is, if you don't know what a pink tax is, it is taxes that are on feminine hygiene products that qualify them as a luxury item rather than a necessary hygiene product like toilet paper or even like Viagra or Rogaine. Those are things that are considered
Are you kidding me?
regular
Oh,
hygiene products and receive taxation in that way, whereas period products in, I think, like 30 states or something like that in the United States, 30-something states have a pink tax of 30 to 40% on period products, which is outrageous and blatantly sexist, like specifically targeting women to make them have to pay more for a necessary product that they need to manage their period. So there's been lots of legislation and like further awareness around the period tax, I feel like in the past decade, and like people trying to push against a period tax or a pink tax existing. In fact, I think 2019 we had our first National Period Day, which is actually, it's in October. I don't know what day it is. We're currently recording this in October. This is not going to come out in October, but it's this month. I think it might have already happened, though. Anyways, there's like a National Period Day, and that's to like raise awareness around period issues such as the pink tax or period poverty or different things like that. And so, yeah, that's what a pink tax is. It's awful.
it's the worst.
Yes, it's totally like outrageous that we would have to pay more for like something that happens all the time. That's like as if people charged you for peeing, you know? Like it's ridiculous. Or like charged you for having a runny nose or something. Like it's wild.
Yeah. And then it doesn't fall in the same category as Rogaine
Yes,
or
the fact
Viagra or other sexual health products.
Yes, that's what indicates to me that like this is something that's specifically targeting women.
Yes.
Because there's items like Rogaine or Viagra that are like, I mean, Viagra is obviously like for men. Rogaine, I think, is stereotyped to be more for men. And so like those products don't receive the same treatment, which I would argue are luxury products
Right.
in like comparison to a tampon or a pad. And another thing that's great about the menstrual cup / disc option is that you actually do save a ton of money. Because
You save a ton of waste.
yes, and they're just the best people. Everybody get a menstrual cup or disc. Just do it. We'll give you guys like links to our favorite ones. But like you pay like $25 or $30 for that and have it for years. Like it doesn't compare. But there's actually been, as of like a week ago, legislation that has been passed by Governor Gavin Newsom of California, here where we live, that requires all public schools and colleges to provide free sanitary products to women in California.
Amazing.
Which, yes, it's incredible.
Yeah, that's one thing that like I've always been pushing for. Actually, in every workplace, I mean, outside of my first internship, but in every workplace that I've been in since graduating college, I have pushed to get sanitary products in bathrooms. So, like, and have been successful. So that's a good thing that people have listened
Yeah.
and agreed to that. But I think that, like, there's no reason that if we provide toilet paper as a basic human right or like privilege or whatever, like it is a common.
It is an expected provision in a bathroom.
Yes, provision is the word I'm looking for. Then menstrual products should also be included in that because
Absolutely.
you can't continue to do your job if you have to run home and grab a tampon because you forgot one in the morning or your period hit early or whatever. Like, it is just a basic hygienic product that should be in every bathroom, just like
Yeah.
soap
Yeah.
and toilet paper and water.
If you would be uncomfortable with seeing a woman just bleeding through her clothing while at work, then you should provide them with the necessary products to manage that in the workplace.
Yes.
Or in the education place or wherever you are.
Yeah. Also, if we were to flip that, if men bled out of their penises, once a month, there would absolutely be sanitary products in every single bathroom, and there would be no such thing as pink tax.
And there would probably be like mandatory 3 to 5 days off per month that you get paid.
Yes,
honestly.
you would have a bleed day, bleed paid time off.
Yeah.
So can we just, get with the program?
Well, speaking of time off, that's another thing that, some people have been trying to push for. I actually read an article recently about a father who's pushing for schools to give accepted
Excused absences.
For girls who have to stay home because of their period, whether that be like period cramps or pain, whatever they're experiencing, that they can't go to school that day. It should be treated the same as if you had strep throat and couldn't come to school.
Which the fact that it's not just is mind blowing to me.
Yeah.
Like, hello.
Yeah.
Like, I 100% agree. Like, I'm the person that actually would stay home when I was in ministry school. There were a handful of times I was like, I cannot go to class. That was when my period problems were at their worst. I was passing out from loss of blood. It was like really bad. But and like I went ahead and just accrued those absences. Like I would go to school when sick because I was like, I might need these days for my period. Like I didn't even know what else to do because that's the option I had. And we had a set amount of absences we could accrue. Otherwise, we would not graduate. And so I chose to graduate essentially over taking a sick day when I was sick.
So. Yeah, like that's messed up. That's something that you should have to do. Like that it wouldn't be treated as a true medical excuse because it is. Like some women have periods that are so seriously debilitating, like passing out from your period or having cramps that are so bad you literally cannot move or having such explosive diarrhea while you're on your period that you need constant access to the bathroom.
You need help. You need a moment.
That's the thing. If you were having explosive diarrhea and you weren't on your period, you would stay home.
100%. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm ill. Or if you choose to go to work on your period, I personally feel guilty. Like that first day, it's wild, guys. I shit everything out of my body. Like I just shit my brains out. And then I don't poop at all for the rest of my period. It's really bizarre. And it's kind of always been that way. And there's probably something wrong with me. That's fine. But I feel guilty, because I'm just being paid at work to shit in the bathroom.
Well, you shouldn't feel guilty for shitting.
But it's for a good chunk of time.
But I'm just saying, if you don't
spending.
poop the next few days, it evens out, eh?
That's true. It does even out. But it's weird. It's really weird. And it just kind of our society and work schedule and everything is just set up to be very support the masculine. And women, even during, before your period, you actually need more calories. That's why you're ravenous all the time. Your body needs more calories because you're burning more calories.
Well, all the time, meaning right before your period.
Right before your period. Yeah. Sorry. I should clarify that. And so it's weird that there isn't this recognition that just women are built differently and they need different things. And if I had a, Friday off and I had my period during that long weekend, I'm ready to slay Monday. Monday will be my biash if I had, 3 days to just bleed it all out, move on with my life, and then dive back into the workplace. But anyway.
But yeah, that's the thing. It's I think one of the beautiful things about feminism is that women kind of push through this very I don't know, it's a big thing but not a big thing at the same time in our lives, right? Because it happens once a month and we just have learned to adapt within the workplace, in our homes, families, social life, whatever. But I'm thankful that we have opportunities because generally in the US there's access to sanitary products that are affordable. But like one thing I think people forget about is there's actually like a period poverty, which in the US usually includes like people in socioeconomically challenged homes who can't afford the pink tax.
Yeah.
And who essentially, because they can't afford sanitary products, are forced to stay home. Like, and so that's potentially denying women the opportunity to work and make money and provide for their families, or preventing young girls from getting an education. And they're racking up unexcused absences. And that affects their grades and their whatever, because the public school system is dumb. And so in the U.S., it's very prevalent. It's like essentially like women who can't afford these products are like prevented from like opportunity. But then worldwide, we have women in who maybe even don't have access to sanitary products at all, whether or not it's like a affordability thing or not. And yeah, girls are kept out of school. Women are kept out of the workplace. Like, it's a very serious issue.
Yeah. Another place that happens a lot, which is affected by almost everything, but is in Indigenous communities. I mean, there a carton of strawberries is like $15 potentially. And so everything is just
on like
reservations. On reservations, yeah. And so in reservations, everything's more expensive. So that is a much wider issue, but particularly like sanitary products for young girls. Like, it's like, oh, if you're choosing between produce and sanitary products, you're going to probably choose produce, right? To feed your family. But yeah. Anyway.
Well, that's, Indigenous women in the United States have a much higher rate of like being affected by period poverty than I think pretty much any other group in the U.S. And so it's definitely like impacting them more because of the high costs in Indigenous communities on the reservations, and also like lack of high income jobs and opportunities. And so, I mean, and the thing is like, I think when you think about like, oh, like a girl doesn't have access to a tampon, no big deal. Like, that doesn't change the course of your life, but like actually it can. Like, the women who are not able to go to school and get an education because of their period, whether that be on the other side of the world or even women here in the United States, like that then affects how much of education they get. And then they might drop out of school because they've missed too much of school and they don't have the ability to catch up. And then they never get to go to a university and get higher education. And then they never get to pursue a professional career because they didn't get the education to inform them to be able to have a professional career. And then you wind up with women who are like, they're sort of they're restricted to basically a limited set of lifestyles that are typically within the home, and it's just focused on raising children and having a husband or whatever, and they don't have the choice of choosing other lifestyles should they want them, and like that is huge. And then also like, they are raising daughters that are going to be put into that same exact cycle again. No pun intended with the cycle there. And like, that's huge. That is huge. If we're talking about trying to empower women, trying to raise women up all over the world, this is essential in that fight, in that pursuit. And we know, I mean, we've talked about this on the podcast before, which the communities actually thrive when their women thrive. Economies thrive when their women thrive. Like, we see governments do better when there's women in the government as well as men. Like, having like equality of the genders in that way, like, genuinely brings about better society. So the moral of the story is, give a girl a freaking tampon and you're gonna better society.
Well, yeah,
educate her on that menstrual cup and some period underwear.
Yeah.
And you are gonna like make a better future for America.
Absolutely.
And the world.
And the world.
I mean, yeah, and back to like, you might think it's just a tampon, but when you're talking about the potential of a whole week of your month, that is a fourth of your time.
Yeah.
Like, that adds up.
Imagine missing a fourth of a school year.
Literally. Like, that is...
You'd be so behind.
Yeah, that is half of a semester. Like, and I think people don't realize, like, just the time, that takes.
It's not even like the education itself. It's also like the extracurriculars that you can now not participate in, right? And those are all important when it comes to like college applications and learning life skills and friend groups and like
Absolutely.
the social benefit of those types of things that you now don't have access to is like huge. Like can't be on debate team because you can't make it to the
practices,
the speech meets or whatever. Yeah,
that's a great point. Like you can't be as like competitive in like your college applications because you can't go to all the things.
Totally. Yeah. Or like in my case, if you were a young dancer, that is a fourth of your dance classes that you can't go to. Like if you don't have a tampon, sorry, you're not going to dance class because again, it's tights and a leotard. You don't wear underwear. Like you don't have like room for anything other than a tampon. And
or a menstrual cup.
Or a menstrual cup, or a menstrual disc, or anything equivalent.
Yes. Something going inside
Something
of you.
needs to be up in there helping you out. But yeah, it's literally impossible. And I would think it's probably pretty similar for a lot of other sports for women, or like gymnasts, or, you know, I don't know. I'm blanking on all other sports that exists right now.
I think they get the idea.
They get the idea.
we don't need to name all the sports.
Guess them. Anyway, yeah, that's a really good point. Also, I've thought about like the beauty of what periods mean to other cultures, and how Emma, you mentioned this the other day, but in Indian cultures, they have like a party with like their relatives.
Yes, there's like a full on when a young girl gets her first period, they're and this is not in all of India, but in certain groups in India, I know that there's some like Hindu groups that do it specifically as like a religious celebration. And there's also Christian groups in India that do it as more of like a coming of age celebration. I mean, they're both coming of age, but obviously have some different things because they're different religions. But yes, I know an Indian family who immigrated here to the United States, and one of their daughters recently had her first period, and they had like a period party that was like a tea party with like women who are like influential in her life and who like can sort of like celebrate with her that she's entering into womanhood. And then because of their situation, they're also having a bigger family event with their family that's in India later in the year. But like it's typically like it is not something that you just sort of sweep under the rug or that's shameful or that like, okay, now you just have to manage this. It's like, congratulations. We are welcoming you into womanhood and we're going to celebrate you because this is not something to be ashamed about. This is not something to feel weird or gross about. Like this is something that's wonderful. And I love that they do that. Like it's
so special.
I think that making a period special is so helpful to a young girl, especially because when you're at that age, you feel awkward and weird about everything. Like, I think that this girl is like 12 right now. And so like, she's just gangly and weird and like you're figuring out how to be like a human and not just like a little child, but like you're not like a teenager yet. And so you're just, it's the weird time, very weird. And so having something that's like, here, like this is actually so valuable and so good. And I'm going to celebrate you for that. I think can help a lot because I think the default for like preteens is weird things are happening.
Yeah,
my body's
and
weird.
you like have a secret conversation with your mom in a bathroom and nobody else in your family finds out about it.
Yes, and I've heard about people like doing things like just taking their daughters for like some sort of like celebration or like taking them to get ice cream to celebrate that they've gotten their period or things like that as well that are like not as like big of a hoopla as they do in India.
I love that.
Yeah, like I think it's worth celebrating and like commemorating.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, in a way, to me, it's similar to like, oh, you have milestones in your life, right? Like it's sort of like celebrating a birthday or celebrating a graduation. But it's sort of, it's an earlier milestone of you're now pubescent.
Yeah.
You can now conceive. Congrats.
Well, and I think like periods are so often thought of as so horrible, right? Like I remember the messaging I grew up with was, I don't have my period yet. And they're like, good. you don't want it. You're going to have this for the rest of your life or whatever. And there are like hard things that come with a period, like cramps and sweaty armpits. And like literally my stomach just burns. It's like red hot like the whole time. Not like to the touch. But anyways, so like your temperature changes and anyways, there are good and bad things, but like it actually is just a sign of your body's normal functioning. Like it's like pooping, you know? Like it's stinky and gross, but it's all pooping is stinky.
Periods can be stinky
Periods
too.
can be very stinky as well. But it's also like this is your body functioning in a new way. And so I wish that like we didn't talk about it in such a negative way all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, my period sucks.
Yeah.
It's worse. It's like, well,
Yeah, I always hated like girls harping on their period growing up. Like I remember I would reprimand my friends in high school for like talking about their period negatively. Not for like complaining about symptoms around their period and things like that. Not like, well, you shouldn't complain that you have cramps.
it's like,
but
oh,
more
my stomach
like
hurts. Yeah, that's
more
fine.
like, oh, my period again. And I'm like, oh, your period is a beautiful thing. Like you get to like it's a reminder of like your womanhood and like things like that. And as I've gotten older, I've understood more like it's a temperature check, like we talked about. It's an indicator of your health. Like it shows that you're functioning well. Like when I didn't have my period for several months at one point, I was so worried about my health because something was wrong with my body. So like I feel like just encouraging like positive talk around the period is so important. Like it in like shifting that perception that it's this horrible, horrible burden. And that's not to discount, obviously, that there are women that it can be very debilitating to.
Totally. I feel that, babe. I'm with you. I get it.
But it's kind of like when you have a sick day, right? Like nobody's like, yeah, I have a sick day. But at the same time, you like stay home and you like watch
Take
TV
care of
and you
yourself.
take care of yourself and your mom makes you soup and like whatever.
Yeah.
And so there are like warm memories of like days at home sick for some people, not everybody. But like I wish that we approached it more like that. Like, like this is a time for rest and recuperation.
Yeah,
Take care of
resetting
yourself.
yourself.
Yeah.
Diffuse those essential oils, bust out that heating pack, girl, get some chocolate, do your thing. I will 100% be the period party mom. Like my kid might, if I have a daughter, if I have kids, but they will hate me because I'm going to make it such a big deal. I will make vagina cupcakes. Like I will go all out because I'm
I will
like,
come to these parties.
please do. We should just do that now. Let's make
make a
vagina
pact.
cupcakes. So I am all for female body positivity, awareness, all the things. If you can throw a bachelorette party and have penises everywhere, you can 100% have a period party and have vaginas everywhere. Like it's just 100% equality.
Well, I can't wait to be invited to your daughter's period parties.
Thank you.
I cannot wait to chow down on a vagina cupcake.
We will complete them with pubic hairs.
Oh, ew.
Decorative, guys. Decorative, not
pubic
real.
hair. That
Come
sounds
on.
Like
lovely.
little black
I'll put
licorices.
little pearls where your clitoris goes. Just little like
boop right there,
yep,
there.
You're welcome. That is the shining jewel of the female vagina. You enjoy that, ladies.
I probably will not do that to my daughters if I have daughters. But I definitely think because of this conversation, I want to make a pact with myself to like have a mom and daughter day at the very least. Like, oh, you got your period. This is the day where we skip school, we go get ice cream, we take you shopping, and it's like a commemorative like
Get you all the
like
things.
like get your nails done.
Yeah.
Like we love you kind of day.
Yeah, like get them a little like period survival kit.
Yes.
I remember
Go
rice
get all the
socks
products.
used to be my go-to. So then like, let's talk about period sex real quick.
Oh yeah, we can't go
Let's
through
talk
this
about
episode
sex, baby.
without talking about periods.
Because that is
Without.
something that is very taboo.
Let's talk about sex, baby, without not.
Well, we are talking about periods.
We are talking about
though.
periods. We can't talk about periods without talking about period sex, is what I meant to
Yes.
say.
We got there eventually.
We'll land the plane. But yeah, it's something that's like really taboo. Like people are like, oh, like sex on your period? Or like, they're like, oh my God, you can't have sex on your period. Like, I feel like there's no like middle ground. There's like two like
Or
extremes.
you must have sex on your period because that is apparently the
That's how
only
you'll
time
get them pregnant.
you're fertile.
Oh, bless
All right,
him.
here's a hot tip. Period fluids can make
Blood.
a great natural lube.
Absolutely.
And period sex can be quite pleasant if you are feeling the feels at the time. So I recommend shower sex or a few towels on the bed that you don't mind getting stained or that are dark colored.
Yep.
But I think everybody should experience period sex.
Wow.
I love
ringing, rousing, arousing review.
I'm not saying it's the best sex that there is, but I am saying every person ought to experience it at least once in their lifetime.
Yeah.
And it's not gross, any more gross than sex is.
Yeah.
And there's tons of fluids all
Yeah,
over
it's
the place
all
with
kinds of
sex.
stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just another one.
It's just
you
another
know?
type of fluid. And if you've like most recently been like into like vampire stuff, it's really hot.
Oh, Kelly's revealing a kink that she has. Her little vampire kink.
We need to ask more about this
you're
later.
into
on
Maybe
vampire
a little like
sex.
murder kink.
Wow. Wow. Love it. I need to know more.
We probably should cut that all out.
We'll see.
We can.
I have the power.
I think I would agree. Like, it's something to experiment with and explore, but like, also like, don't feel pressure. Like, for me personally, most of the time, I don't feel like having sex on my period.
Same, totally.
But yeah, we have engaged in the shower sex during period because it just washes it away. But actually, what's been surprising to me that I did not expect is James, it actually really bothers him seeing like blood on me. Like, it like hurts his heart. And so he's like, actually, when you're on your period, like heavy flow, he's like, unless it's shower, like I don't want to because like it hurts his heart for some reason, even though it's
and
perfectly
blood can
normal.
be like kind of a
Triggering.
sort of like appearance. So
Yeah.
I understand that it's not everybody's cup of tea.
It's not, but like when I'm towards the end of my period and it's like, just like a little spotting, like hit it. Like it actually for me is really helpful to like get the last bit out.
It
I
is
have
actually.
found.
It kind of helps flush you at the
It gets
end.
just a little, little wash situation.
Well, something.
But I think it's definitely something that should be less stigmatized, either to absolutely do it or absolutely don't do it. I'm like, try it. Like, see what you think. Like, if you hate it, you don't have to do it ever again.
I mean, just like anything else, like in the bed, people like everyone has their preferences,
Totally.
and that's
like,
fine.
It's based on how you feel and what you want and how your partner feels and what your partner wants. Like,
Overall, I think my main point that I want to get across is don't be ashamed
yes,
to have period sex.
Absolutely
Because there's
not.
nothing to be ashamed of.
Yeah.
It can be great.
it can be great. Absolutely. Anyway, as we're starting to wrap up, like, ladies, do you have period advice for your fellow menstruators?
My advice is number one, listen to this podcast so that you can hear all of our great thoughts on period sex. Number two,
If you're at this point of the podcast and you didn't listen to it,
so you've already
that's weird.
So the reason I'm saying that is because now you can already check that off.
You've already
Your
won.
list.
There you
You've
go.
already
Amazing.
done half the work. Number two, highly recommend getting a menstrual cup or disc and looking into it. There's tons of great like YouTube resources out there where people will show you how to insert them and how to use them. I will warn you, they have a bit of a learning curve. I learned how to use mine during COVID, which was great because I was working at home and I had the ability to take it in, take it out, blah, 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 and never was in work. So if you work from home or whatever, that's a great time in your life to try it. With that, sub-advice about the menstrual cup, if you're having trouble with it, take it out, use your normal stuff, try it again the next month. Because the more you try and the more you're trying to shove things up there and the more stressed you get, the less relaxed you're going to be and the harder it's going to be. So give yourself space to, and I'm telling you this because my husband was like, just take it out, try it next time. Like you have time. So pull it out, use a tampon for the rest of your time and you're going to get it. Other advice about periods.
I will say on that, I found I had a lot of trouble when I first tried. I remember I was texting my friend who had turned me on to menstrual cups, and I texted her as I was doing it, and I was like, I feel like this is what childbirth feels like because it hurts so bad trying to do this. Like, I was like in so much pain trying to do it. And all that to say, it actually like wound up becoming so easy after a few times of doing it, after a few periods of doing it. It became very easy to do, and it was not as dramatic and crazy as I thought it was at first.
Also, if you feel like you're giving birth when you're doing it, that's not probably going to be your experience.
Also, I will say, wet your menstrual cup before you put it in, so it's a little bit lubricated.
Yes.
Because putting it in while it's dry is harder.
And if
that
you
was
do
part
the
of my
research
issue.
and you watch some YouTube videos, they'll give you all the advice you need before you start. So there's different like ways that your vaginas are shaped. And so if you kind of start looking into it, you can sort of maybe even feel up around there and learn what your vagina is like and determine what the best cup or disc is for you.
Or even just the way that you insert it. Like the way you fold it.
Yep.
And there's different folding styles.
It took me a while to figure out which folding style worked for me, and I finally landed somewhere. So be encouraged. You will get there.
Yeah.
But we highly recommend that. I can't recommend it enough.
Yeah. I would concur. I also would highly recommend heating pads. For me, heating pads have saved my life. I also really I have a CBD THC balm that I use on my uterine area, or inner thighs during like my period. And that really helps me with my cramps. I also use a lot of essential oils. That really helps me with my cramps.
But like not on your
Not
on your vagina, right?
on my vagina. No. I put very little actually on or near my vagina. So yeah, those things really help me personally. I also have worked a little bit with a medical health professional to determine what I should be supplementing with. And that is something that has helped me a lot manage a lot of my period concerns or woes. And again, would highly, highly suggest the FEM program. They're amazing. Or drjolienbrighton.com on Instagram. Her books, she has 2. They're fabulous. Really great lady. So just, know your body, know what's going on, but also know it's probably okay. Like if you have a problem, it will show itself. And if it's not showing itself, you're probably okay.
Oh, I just thought of another one. If you are like dieting or like counting calories or any such type of situation, whether it's for lifting or personal goals or whatever it is, no judgment here. But if you are doing that, be aware that your calorie needs change throughout your cycle. Mm-hmm. And so on your period, you actually need like 200 to 300 more calories per day. Mm-hmm. And this will both benefit you and your mental whatever, so that you're not feeling guilty or whatever if you eat a little bit more like during certain parts of your cycle, but it's also better for your body. Mm-hmm. And so if your body's telling you it's hungry, feel free to eat more on your period. Would highly recommend looking more into that. I think you can YouTube or whatever. Dieting on your period and not even your period, but like your whole cycle situation.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, or learn more about scaling your workouts throughout your period.
Yes.
That's also something that's really helpful because your body needs change. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
The reason you feel tired and grumpier or whatever it is you feel is because your body actually needs different things. So just, I would say like body intuition,
in general.
Listen to your body in general is all really helpful when it comes to your cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that my piece of sort of period advice is actually more of maybe a challenge, which is to just talk about it more. Like I think that take the take the brave step of like speaking openly about your period. I think that that's one of the biggest ways that we can destigmatize it and make it not such a big deal or not as scary of a thing. And I think, honestly, I think men should have to hear about our periods too. Why not? Like, it's a very normal thing and it affects everybody. Periods affect everybody because either you menstruate and have a period, or you know or love someone who menstruates or has a period, and we all exist because of people who menstruate and have a period, because that was what indicated that they were able to now give birth to you. So, like, we are all affected by periods, and so I think that it is healthy and good for us to just talk about them more and speak about them in a way that's open and that's not scary or like it's weird or taboo. Like, the more that people know about it, the more that they won't feel weirded out by periods. So that's my like advice / challenge is just talk about it more. Just feel okay with it. Like, not like as you talk about it more, you will feel more okay with it. Like, it will start to feel more and more normal and natural to talk about for you and also for the people around you.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more, ladies. All great advice all around. Thank you so much for being here today with me.
Thank you for being here
That's
today.
instantly what I thought of in Princess Diaries.
Thank you for being here today.
Love it. Thank you for bleeding with me today.
Ooh,
you're welcome.
We're all currently bleeding.
And thank you, audience, for being here with us today. We hope you enjoyed this episode. We hope it was encouraging to you, whether you yourself menstruate or whether you know someone who menstruates and love someone who menstruates, because we all probably do. And you know what? We wish you the best of luck during your menstruation and your cycle. And you can follow us on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube or all the podcasting platforms. We are now on Amazon, which means Audible.
Yeah, well, Amazon Music / Audible. Yeah,
Great.
I think it's both.
You can find us almost anywhere. So if you're not finding us, why not? Because that sounds like a you problem.
I mean, I'm assuming if you're listening now that you have found us somewhere.
You
Yes.
have probably found
Well,
us somewhere.
And we would love if whatever app or site that you're watching us on, if you would give us a review. Just give us a little 5-star review. I mean, we're not soliciting for you to give us 5-star reviews. We're just saying we would prefer a 5-star review. So give us a review. Let us know what you think. If you've benefited from this episode or any of our other episodes, we would love to get that feedback, and it'll help other people find our episodes and also be able to benefit from them. So
Yeah, absolutely. Also, if you are not following us on Instagram, go ahead and give us a follow, because guess what? This was a topic actually recommended for us from a viewer. So if you are interested in influencing what kind of content we come out with, that's where, you're going to catch us. So we hope to see you over there engaging in the conversation. So thanks for being here today, and we will catch you next time.
Happy menstruation.
Oh.
Love. Bye.